Hello, this is Jay. I am the last of the four to be interviewed for our videos that we're putting out on YouTube and the internet at large to help educate and encourage other people who are going through similar things as we are. So I am currently in Austin, Texas, and filming this by myself. So is very often the case. I'm on the road traveling, and that's what's going on this week. So I wanted to give a little bit of a background of my relationship with my sister, with Jeff and the family, and with Steven, and kind of how we've gotten to where we are now from my perspective. So, my relationship with Melanie has always been something very, very strong. I think it's always been something quite special. I always say growing up, the biggest argument I remember us ever getting in was who was going to sit in the front seat when my mom was driving. We just didn't really fight that much. We always, pretty much got along. I'm sure I annoyed her as her younger brother when her friends would be around, and I'd probably want to play Barbies or dress up or whatever they happened to be getting into at the time. But all in all, we've always been pretty close. And I would say when I went away to college and became an adult, that we got even closer. I remember coming out to my sister and her being nothing but loving and encouraging and there for me. And then several years later, we would talk about family planning, and I think somewhere deep down I've always wanted to have a family. I've always wanted to have kids, but knew that that would be a difficult journey to go on. It would be a process full of expense and ups and downs and unknowns, and the potential to not necessarily be blood related to the child, which is fine. And there's a lot of families that choose to adopt. We know that there's a lot of kids out there who need good homes to loving parents, and that's an incredible path to go. I just never really thought that that was the path that I wanted to go. So when my sister all these years ago said that, well, she would be willing to donate an egg to my future partner or husband and myself, so that my partner could then fertilize the egg and we could both be related, I thought, oh my God, what an incredible gift. And she really just kind of gave it so selflessly and said it kind of matter of factly. Not that she hadn't thought about it, but just that, well, of course, it's no big deal. You're my brother. I love you. I would do anything to help you. And that's what came across in that moment. So I've always held that close as I've gone through my relationships through life. And when I met Steven and we became serious, and certainly one of the things that we bonded over was our common desire to have a family one day, to make a place for children in our lives, a child, maybe more. We've been everywhere from 1 to 3 to sometimes 4, but I think we're somewhere around 1, maybe 2, if we're lucky at this point. But when that started becoming reality for he and I, it really started getting exciting. And we, of course, got serious in our relationship and got engaged, and really started talking about this in earnest with my sister. As she's mentioned, she's 40, she'll be 41 this December. So that puts some things on fast forward for us a little bit. Every year that goes by, the risk of issues, of the inability to get pregnant gets higher and higher. So we certainly have a lot going on this year with a marriage. I have a lot going on in my professional life with business growth opportunities. Steven's gone back to grad school and is teaching full time. We are building a home. So it's just, it's kind of a lot. And, we're throwing this into the mix now because, screw timing sometimes. When is the best time? And we've talked before that heterosexual couples sometimes can just kind of throw caution to the wind and say, we'll stop being careful, we'll stop being on birth control or using protection, whatever it might be, and when it happens, it happens. But for us, in this process, it's much more deliberate than that. We have to make a conscious decision and say, yes, this is what we want in our lives. We're going to do the work to do it. Um, so that's where we're at. Um, and just to go back to how we've gotten from my sister donating an egg to she's carrying the child for us. Um, it was about a year and a half ago that my sister and Jeff FaceTimed us. They were in Michigan, still living, and we, of course, here in North Carolina. And she said, I know we've been talking about the surrogacy process and everything that would entail, and Jeff and I have spoken, and if you would like, I would like to carry your child as well, which I immediately burst into tears and kind of trying to process all of that. And Stephen and I couldn't really give an answer at that point, because there's a lot to consider. It's you want to make sure that I wanted to make sure that she had thought this through. I'm sure she had, but you go into these things with the best intention, but you never know the attachments that might be formed, and how easy would it be for you to give birth to a child and then immediately, kind of hand him or her over, and you're still involved in their life. I mean, that's every bit the intention of this with Melanie and Jeff and the kids moving from Michigan to North Carolina, is to be with us and be a part of the child's life and be there. So how would that be day in and day out? And we talked all of those things through, and she understands that that would be a lot of work on her part, to get through all of that, but it's something that she was so willing to do. Um, so I kind of have an internal battle inside very often of who's the more giving and selfless person, and not that it needs to be a competition, but my sister, for, I mean, what more is there to give than the gift of life? And that's what she's willing to give to Stephen and I. There are risks involved when you're a bit older, and she understands those and is still willing to go through all of this so that we can have a family. Or is it Jeff? The brother-in-law to me, the husband to Melanie, who is willing to move his family from Michigan to North Carolina to be close to us, and is willing to have her wife go through this process, which there are awkward moments and awkward things that happen in this that I'm sure we'll discuss in later videos, and then have a pregnant wife for 9 months and everything that goes along with that. We know it's not always going to be rainbows and kittens. um, and to do it in a public setting such as this, it's pretty incredible. Um, and to say that I love them and I appreciate them, I look up to them, I admire them. It's they're just words, and it's really hard to kind of express how I feel. The way they've raised their children is an inspiration to Stephen and I. There's so much of what they do and how they've raised their children that we want to emulate, that we want to do exactly that. They've been nothing but open and honest with their kids throughout this entire process, and as a result, the kids have bought in, and the kids were excited to move to North Carolina, and they're excited to go through this process with us and to have a little cousin, which will probably feel more like a niece or nephew, as they're going to be in their teens by the time this happens. But to say I'm fortunate and have had a great life thus far would be an understatement. I'm surrounded by people who love and care for us, and want to do everything they can to make our lives better. I have the most incredible husband in the world, and what we dream of building and what we dream of creating for our child or our children, I think is really unique, and I feel extremely grateful and blessed to have that with him as well. So there are other thoughts, and there are awkward moments, and there are times, where it's not perfect, and you wonder, are we all going to be able to get through this and still have this close of a relationship? But I think at the end of the day, it's probably going to bring us even closer together than we are now. But along the way, we'll certainly share all of those ups and downs. And I'll continue to share those from my perspective as we go through it. So please tune in, join, follow the Uncommon Family on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And if there's any questions that you might have for us, if there's anything that you'd like us to talk about, don't hesitate to let us know, and we'll try to address any of that. So until next time from Austin, see you later.